Um, Good morning, listeners, wherever you may be today. My name is Adekunle Akintayo, the Executive Director at Colbit Foundation, Nigeria, which is a foundation for sustainability. We talk about social development of our Nigerian society. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to season 2 of our Can You Fix Nigeria challenge. For some of you who have followed us over the time, you will recall that we had a season 1 of these fireside chats in 2021, where we picked on various sectors of the Nigerian economy. We talked about healthcare, education, agricultural, finance, and we looked at each of those sections or those sectors to see how we could make those sectors better for the general Nigerian population. Subsequent to that, we've been able to do a book on this. The title of the book is called Fixing Nigeria. Look out for it. If you're interested, you can give us a call or just drop me a message on Colbit NGO on Twitter or X, as it's now being called, or you could drop me a message on Colbit Foundation on Facebook. Colbit is C-U-L-B-E-A-T Foundation. Again, on Twitter, you can reach us at Colbit NGO, at Colbit NGO, or on Facebook, Colbit Foundation. All right. So we did the book at the end of season 1. That program has been on Metro FM in Lagos for some time, and it's still running on Nigerian Info FM in Abuja. So please feel free to listen in when you have the time on Tuesdays from 4:30 in Nigeria. You can listen to that message if you're, or to the program if you're opportune. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to season 2 of this chat. And season 2, we're going to run season 2 for 10 weeks. And over those 10 weeks, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be focusing on the oil and gas sector in Nigeria, or the energy sector, to put it to be more politically correct, as it is these days. The energy sector in Nigeria, with a big focus on the NNPCL. That's the oil and gas sector organization responsible for all the oil and gas sector, the energy sector in Nigeria today, the NNPCL. And over the next 10 weeks, what we will be doing is that for the NNPCL, we're going to be looking at the business model of the NNPCL. We're going to be talking about security of our pipelines. We're going to be talking about the downstream energy sector. We're going to be talking about labor issues across the industry. We're going to be talking about business management. What is the interaction of the NNPCL with other IOCs who are operating in Nigeria? We're going to be looking at the issue of technical standards. We're going to be looking at the issue of our safety records. We're going to be looking at renewables, and we're going to be looking at gas monetization. And finally, we're going to be talking about financing projects. So there's quite a lot that we're going to look at over the next 10 weeks. And I'm hopeful that you will join us as we have some of this discussion. I'm going to be bringing a few guests, professionals who work in the sector, to share their experiences with me. Also, we're going to be, if it's possible, we're going to have town hall meetings like we had for season 1. We'll see how it goes. And I just invite you to come with us. And if you have any comments or any recommendations, please feel free to drop those to me on Twitter or X, as it's called. I'm still getting used to that. Facebook, YouTube, or on LinkedIn, wherever. We're on several of those platforms, and you're going to be able to drop a message to us so that we can see how this conversation can get better. Ultimately, all we're looking out to do is to ensure that our country becomes better. To look at what other people are doing around the world and to be able to add to that. So that brings me to NNPCL season 2 of the Can You Fix Nigeria challenge. Quick background to the NNPCL. So NNPCL itself, or the old NNPC, as most of us know it, was incorporated following Decree 33 of 1977, on the 1st of April 1977, it was the amalgamation of the Nigerian National Oil Company, NNOC, and the old Ministry of Petroleum Resources. And that was what it was from 1977 until about 2 years ago, where we incorporated it as a business organization with the name NNPC Limited, which is why we now call it the NNPC. And what is the focus of the NNPC today? If you go to their website, their main issue is to say that our focus, this is their mission statement. Mission statement is a focus on the transition energy, while ensuring the domestic energy security for Nigeria. So there are two words there, transition, and number two, domestic energy security. And you will notice, for those of you who are familiar with many NOCs and oil and gas companies around the world, there's the discussion about the transition. And we're going to cover that, particularly when we come to the issue of the renewables. But for today, like I said, our focus is on the NNPC business model. So the first question, what I've done is that I talked to a few of our friends, and some people have sent me some questions prior to this discussion today. Now, I wouldn't really call it a discussion, it's more of a monologue, just to set the scene for what we're going to do over the next 10 weeks. So in this monologue today, I'm going to take some of the questions which are pre-received, and then I'm going to try to address them. And then what will happen is that over the next 10 weeks, we will then try and share more light on some of these things that have been raised today. So the first question that I got was, whenever we compare the NNPCL today, which is the Nigerian National Oil Company, and we compare them with other national oil companies around the world, how do we rate? Now, first thing, remember there are many other national oil companies around the world. How are they doing? We all know about the Saudi Aramco from Saudi. There's Qatar Energy from Qatar. There's ADNOC from the UAE. There's Petrobras from Brazil. There's Petronas from Malaysia. There's PDVSO from Venezuela. Sonatrach, Sonangol from Algeria and Angola, as the case may be. So there are many national oil companies around the world. If you look at this is November 2023 that I'm doing this recording. If you look at last year, for example, the Saudi Aramco, which is the biggest national oil company in the world, made a profit of $162 billion. Now, I hope you heard that. It's a profit. I'm not talking about their revenue or turnover. Net profit of $162 billion US was what Saudi Aramco made last year. Whereas if we come back home in Nigeria, year on year, we keep saying, oh, our NNPC is not making any money. I don't think NNPC has declared profit for only God knows how long. Maybe that will change now that we have incorporated it as a company. So the first question that people ask me is the model, what really is the NNPC for? What is the business model of the NNPC? Is the NNPC a revenue-making company? You could be a revenue-making company without a drive to make profit. How do I mean? Your revenue is for you to broaden your market. You want to be as big in the market as possible. So is NNPC a revenue-generating company? Is the NNPCL a profit-making company? We just talked about $162 billion for Saudi Aramco in 2022. All right. So is the NNPC geared up to make profit? Or is the NNPC just created to supply energy to Nigeria? That's it. It doesn't matter whether it makes profit or loss, but it guarantees that there's energy, there's oil, there's kerosene, there's jet fuel, whatever we need. Is that all that it does? Or is it there to create work? You know, there are some national oil companies whose main focus is just to create enough work and expertise in the country. So the first question then is, what is the core business of the NNPC? Now, the only way to go back and understand that is to go back to what their mission statement says. And like I said, if you go to the NNPC's, website, their mission statement, whether we agree with it or we don't agree with it, is that They are focused on the energy transition and to ensure domestic energy security. So the driver, if we were to follow that strictly, the main driver which NNPC was created for is to ensure that anytime we need energy in Nigeria, be it gasoline or petrol for our cars, kerosene for people to use at home, jet fuel for our planes to fly, gas for us to do cooking at home, petrochemicals for us to be able to service our petrochemical industries. The job of NNPC is to ensure that these products are available. End of story. That is the mission statement of NNPC. It doesn't matter whether it makes profit, whether it makes revenue. I'm saying this based on what is written on their website. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but that is what is written on their website. So this is the first question, and this is how we see it. Then the next question you ask yourself then is this. Okay, if this is the model, if the model of NNPC or the purpose of NNPC is to guarantee energy security, how is the NNPC set up today? If you look at the NNPC, if you go into their website or whatever, and you look at how they're structured, the NNPC itself is structured with 5 executive vice presidents. There's a group CEO. There's 5 executive vice presidents and 1 vice president for the upstream. Upstream is the guys who are producing, who are drilling, who are producing the product. There's 1 executive vice president for downstream. There's 1 executive vice president for business support, so finance, HR, and all of that. There's an executive vice president for finance dedicated, and then there's an executive vice president for gas production. In addition to these 5 executive vice presidents, there are 27 SBUs, strategic business units of the NNPC, 27 of them, and or 27 strategic business units or commercial support units, as they call them. So that's how the company itself is structured, and each of these or many of these have their own MDs. So when you look at it, we're saying at the exec level in NNPC, we have in excess of 27 SBU MDs plus 5 executive vice presidents plus a CEO plus a group CEO. I mean, at the exec level at all alone, we have in excess of 33 people. So then the question that you ask yourself is that the right structure? Is the company itself too top heavy? For those of us who are familiar with corporate things, I mean, I don't know many companies in the world, no matter how big they are, that have 33 people at their exec level. Now, that's exec level. We have not talked about the board level because there's still a board that is on top of that. Okay, and so we need to ask ourselves whether this organization structure is right or we should be making it leaner. Okay, now, and I'll look at that from two perspectives. First perspective is, what do other NOCs do? I'm familiar, for example, a little with, say, Qatar Energy in Qatar, where what they will have is they've got a group CEO, fine, who is also doubling as the Minister of Energy, similar to what we have or we should have had, okay? Then they have about 6 or 7 executive vice presidents. Under those executive vice presidents, you then have like GMs. Immediately after those guys, after the executive vice president, you have general managers. And under those general managers, you have managers, and then you have discipline chiefs. So between the very top of the organization and the people who work at the bottom level, there are only 6 levels. You have the CEO level, you have the executive vice president level, you have the general manager level, you have the manager level, you have the discipline leaders level, and then you have the working level. 6 levels, that's it. And at the exec level, there are only 6 EVPs and the group CEO. But that's a company that does more than we do in terms of revenue. They do more than we do in terms of how broad they are. So for example, I take a Qatar Energy. They have an LNG terminal. They have LNG terminals in the UK. They are doing business in Mozambique. They're doing business in Namibia. They have business that they're doing in the US because they have the Golden Pass LNG terminal. in Texas. So those kind of companies are operating in 5, 6, 7, 8 different countries. The NNPC, compared to other national oil companies, does not have business anywhere else. Yet they have 33 people at the top. So that structure doesn't seem right. Okay, now let's step back to 2015 when President Buhari became president. He brought in Ibe Kachuku, Mr. Ibe Kachuku, as MD of the NNPC, or the minister, as the Minister of Petroleum, Minister of State. And I remember that one of the things that Ibe Kachuku did was that he tried to restructure the NNPC. He broke it down to 31 organizations. He eliminated the position of the group CEO. All the companies were to work individually and make their own profit and report into the board. Now, please understand me. I'm not saying Ibe Kachuku is right, but that was another model. A model that is focused on profit, a model where you don't have a group CEO who coordinates all of this, but rather the coordination is done at the ministerial level. Now, we could look at that's an option. It does not mean that that's the best option. There are many other options. So the question I would say, if I was Minister of Energy in Nigeria, or somebody who has authorities, why don't we bring in, we have a lot of consulting firms in Nigeria. We have even better consulting firms abroad. The people who look at structure, we could bring in Baines & Co., 1,000 on PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, Accenture, whatever. Bring in somebody to help you look at the structure of this organization and see if the structure is fit for purpose. At the moment, the structure does not seem fit for purpose. We need to be aware of this and see how we're going to be able to address it. So this is the second thing. The first thing we've talked about is what is the purpose of the NNPC. The second thing that we've just talked about is the organization structure set up to meet that purpose. Number 3, some have also argued that the NNPC as is currently constituted is too intertwined with the federal government. Okay, so President Buhari, President Tinubu came in and we had a dollar problem in Nigeria. Dollar problem, how are we going to be able to address it? We had nothing to give. So what did we do? We went to NNPC and asked NNPC to help us borrow $3 billion from our Finexim Bank. Okay, I understand the desperation of government. Yeah, government was desperate. We needed some money because our Naira was in free fall. There was only one way to address that, was to loan money, bring money to stabilize for some time. But the question I ask myself is this the best way for us to do business? We're using the NNPC now to take loans or to buy forward. Why did we structure that through a banking system? Through our banking system. So, but what that raises in my mind is that our NNPCL is too intertwined with government. Many years ago, I remember there was a governor in the Southwest. They wanted to do election. It was said that they went to NNPC and they took some money from the interest of NNPC to go and do election. That's how bad it is, that people can just go to NNPC, take money from NNPC and go and do election. That was how it was. This was about 10 years ago. Yeah. Now you look at the situation where, so what can we do to disengage our company if this company is going to work? Now, please understand why this is important. It's not that I'm just speaking on NNPC because in our typical way, we like to pick on people. No, but think about it. This is a company, fortunately or unfortunately for us, that gives us over 90% of our foreign currency, of our hard currency, and generates 82% of our total revenue. So this company is not critical to us. It's the lifeblood of this country. It's the complete lifeblood of this country. And the problem is that year after year, it seems that we don't select the best people to run it. Let me give you 2 or 3 quick examples of why I said that. So we incorporated NNPCL, I believe, in 2021. And what did we do? What did our president, or what did our president, who was also Minister of Oil, do? Well, we selected Senator Ararume as chairman. I don't know why, because he has no oil and gas experience, none whatsoever. But we selected him. And then in a few months, we found out that, no, actually, this was a bad choice. So they kicked him out. They removed Ararume. And then we brought Mrs. Okadigbo, Chuba Okadigbo's wife, as chairman, and we brought Ari Mashal's daughter. These are the people who are on the board of NNPC. Now, please understand that if NNPC was a company that generates money, and we take the average price of $50 a day, it's a lot more. It's about 80 at the moment, but let's take 50 just to make the maths easy. And we are doing 1.5 million barrels a day. What that means is that NNPC is doing $75 million a day. Yeah, $75 million a day, which means that in a year, that company will be doing $25 billion minimum. So you don't just pick people off the street to go and run a $25 billion company. It does not happen. We don't pick Chuba Okadigbo's wife because we like Chuba Okadigbo, or Ari Mashal's daughter, or Senator Ararume. No, this is not the way to run it. The way to run it is to take the most competent people, and we have a few. We don't have a lot, but we have a few. Recently, Babs Omotua left LLNG, which is one of the better LNG-run companies in the world. We have that guy in this country. We could have used him. We have somebody like that. We have Imomo, who was in Shell for donkey years. He was MD of Shell Nigeria. We have those kind of guys. They have retired, who have run businesses of similar size. We have capable people from Exxon Nigeria, from Exxon Nigeria. Kachuku came from Exxon Nigeria, for example. Would he have been better as MDC of NNPC rather than as being Minister of State? Because he was technical. You know, so I think that's another thing that we need to look at in terms of how do we run this company? Is this company too intertwined with government? Does government need to allow this company to have a level of independence, just like you are doing with LLNG? When November 2023, LLNG just paid a dividend of $6.7 billion to the Nigerian government, which is what the President Tinubu is putting back into the economy now to stabilize the dollar. Okay, if we run the NNPC like we're running the LLNG, the NNPC can give us even much more money. And I think it's time that we consider this. Yeah? Okay. I go to the next question. One of the things that is now affecting our NNPC, so the way NNPC runs the business is that there are some businesses which they run as JVs, joint ventures, with international oil companies. They run a Shell NNPC JV. Yeah, they run a ExxonMobil NNPC JV. There's a Chevron Chevron NNPC JV, Total NNPC JV. So they run all of these JVs. Many of you who are listening will have noticed that some of these companies are beginning to leave Nigeria. Okay. And in fairness, President Tinubu said something during his campaign that to prevent these companies from leaving, maybe we need to relook at our shareholding. So most of these JVs, like we talked about, are 60-40 JVs. What does 60-40 JV mean? 60% of it is owned by NNPC, 40% by the international oil company. International oil company is the operator, but NNPC owns majority share. Now, that is different from how we run the LLNG in Nigeria. LLNG in Nigeria, government owns 49%. The government of Nigeria deliberately did that so that they are not the ones who owns majority share. The implication of that cannot be clearer. I keep saying to people around the world, everywhere, the NLNG in Nigeria is one of the best run LNG businesses in the world. Nigeria with Chevron has what they call the GTL in Escravos. Escravos is one of only 2 major GTL projects in the whole world. It's one of only 2. So now my point is, rather than continue to run the NNPC JVs at 60-40, where government has the biggest say, why don't we follow what President Tinubu himself said during his campaign, i.e., we sell some of those shares, we reduce our stakeholding, yeah? In selling it, we can generate money to manage our economy, 1, and 2, we will hand over the business to people who are capable of running it more, who have better capability, better technical capability, who have better structures to run it. Whatever money that NNPC gets from that, they can then invest in other things. For example, the NLNG, we are trying to build a LNG plus. They're saying now that we don't have enough gas. All that we should be doing is we should be drilling gas. We should be building a compression platform, building a pipeline network of pipeline, and bringing gas to the LNG so that it can do better. This is even more important today because the supply of gas from Russia is in question. So President Olaf of Germany was in Nigeria to come and see us. He was in Qatar to go and see Qatar to get gas. It tells you that people are looking for this gas. We have it in abundance. But we will only benefit from it if we bring our projects on stream as quickly as possible. And the only way to bring our projects on stream as quick as possible is to have the money and the technical expertise to do that. And the way to raise that money in today's Nigeria, because nobody else is going to give you this money, to be honest, is for us to reduce our stakeholding in these JVs or sell existing assets so that we can use that to raise money. I'll make one final discussion point before I leave this topic. Don't think like it's only in Nigeria that oil companies are leaving. No. Exxon and Chevron are leaving everywhere in the world. They are heading back to the US. It's not a Nigerian problem. Apart from Guyana, I don't think Exxon is putting his money anywhere. If you go to Singapore right now, Shell is selling their refining business in Singapore. It's one of the best refining businesses in the world. All those guys are going back to their country. Indonesia in 2018 or 17 and 18, Total, Shell, everybody left. What the Indonesian government did was that they set up Pertamina and acquired all those assets and they manage it themselves. So we need to be looking at our business, saying to ourselves, if we don't allow these companies to sell, they will walk away at some point. The point is that they will walk away. We need to be ready when they walk away. When they walk away, we need to set up our own organizations that are capable of taking over these businesses to run them in a profitable way for Nigeria, for the long-term benefit of our country. Okay, let's move to the next topic. Next topic. Earlier, I mentioned that if you look at all the other NOCs around the world, what are NOCs? National oil companies. We talked about Saudi Aramco making 162 billion, Qatar Gas, Hard Knock, all these people. Now, there's not any of these companies that does not produce in their own country. They produce in their own country. They own assets in other countries. They have a retail business in other countries. They do this. It's unfortunate that our own NNPCL has not been able to look beyond Nigeria because our structure has not been very good. Now, there's an arm of NNPC which is supposed to be producing Nigeria, which is the MPDC. But they've not been very successful. I'm sure 90% of our listeners don't even know about MPDC. No, many of you don't know about it because they're not successful. They're not. That's the simple truth. If we were a serious country, what will be happening now is that as many of the oil majors are leaving, the assets that they are leaving should be sold to NPDC so that NPCC can begin to build capacity, technical capacity, human capacity, and generate revenue for our country. Okay, so NPDC, now the question I'm asking myself today is, okay, what do we need to do to bring NPDC up to speed? Let me be one of the first people to tell you that what we need to do at NPCC is what the other NOCs are doing around the world. There's no NOC that is only using their own nationals to do work. The Aramco that you see, almost everybody who is doing serious work at Aramco is an expert. There are thousands upon thousands of Nigerians who are working for Saudi Aramco. There are thousands, hundreds of Nigerians working for Qatar Energy. Hundreds of Nigerians working in ADNOC. The same are British, German, French. Every country brings the best talent from around the world to come and work for them. If we are going to make success with our oil and gas industry, we need to be open. We need to bring the best people from around the world. We need to pay them the best possible rate. The best possible rate. I say it again, the best possible rate plus a premium. This is the only way we can attract people. Let's be honest, nobody will come to Nigeria when he has an option to go to Qatar or to go to UAE. They will not come. You need to be able to pay them a premium to come here and come and help us. This is number one. Number two, I beg you all by the mercies of God, if you are listening to me, let us be humble enough to know that we don't know everything. Part of the problem that we have is that we don't know enough and we just brag. We brag too much. Yeah? Look, I've worked in oil and gas in Nigeria for 25 years. We are not capable of doing many things. We have not done any major design in this country. Nothing serious. It's a lack of competence or incapability that is making all our refinery go down. We're not able to do planning. We're not able to do shutdown. We're not able to do process design. We're not. It's obvious. There's no other reason why you would have 4 refineries and everything will be down at the same time. So if you're not capable at the moment, please have the humility to bring people from around the world who can help you. And if you want to bring people, you need to be able to pay them a premium. Okay, so let me wrap up our discussion today. I'll summarize again what I've said so far in this monologue, and we will continue to look in depth into all of these things over the next 10 weeks. Number one is what is the mission, the purpose of the NNPCL? What is the primary purpose of setting up that organization? Is the organization geared to be able to meet that primary purpose? Yeah? Are we willing to change the organization structure? Are we willing to bring in people from around the world to come and help us? Are we willing to have strategic decisions, to take long-term decisions? In oil and gas or in energy section, there's no 1-year decision or 2-year decision. Every decision is 5 years plus. 5 years plus. It's a big industry. You spend billions. Even in Nigeria, billions of dollars. I was in Nigeria when they built the East Area Project. East Area Project was $8 billion. Egina was $16 billion full field development. Bonga Southwest, all of those in Nigeria are on tens of billions of dollars. President Buhari just signed the LLNG Train 7. It was a $10 billion job. Nobody does oil and gas at small level. It's a big project, big time, long-term decision. So please let us bring in the best people from around the world to help us. Let us be humble enough to accept this. And I will talk a little more about this when we speak about labor relationships in the energy sector. I thank you again for joining me for this introductory section for this Can You Fix Nigeria for season 2, and where we're going to be looking at the NNPCL. Thank you, and speak to you soon. God bless.